Good afternoon, folks. Robert Chappell here, Executive Editor of Madison365 with your daily update for today, which is Thursday, December 9th. The as I mentioned yesterday, as you know from this week, we had zero data Monday, Tuesday. We got some data yesterday. We got some more data today with regards to COVID spreading in Wisconsin. We were told on Tuesday that the numbers that were going to come were going to look lower than they were, right? So we take the data from yesterday, we take the data from today with a bit of a grain of salt, right? But we'll take it. We like to see nice low numbers. It's not right. 3164. Yeah. So yesterday we reported a 7-day average of new cases of 3,155. Right, which is only slightly higher than it was the last time we had data, which was all the way back on Friday. Today, they've revised yesterday's 7-day average upward, but only slightly. So yesterday, the 7-day average of new cases was actually 3,164. So a little bit more than what they had reported, but only by a bit, right? So yesterday's numbers were a bit low, but not really low. Today, the 7-day average is down to 3,024, with 3,987 new cases confirmed and reported today. I would expect that to be revised upward again tomorrow, but maybe not by a lot. So maybe it's closer to 3,100, which is still would be lower than yesterday, which is good. Yesterday's positive test rate, which is the other really important number, was yesterday when I reported when we had this show yesterday, it was 11.3 or something. Now it has been revised upward to 12.1, which is more what I would expect, considering that late last week, it was like over 13% of all tests were positive. So 12.1 yesterday, still really high, but still improving from last week. Right? That's all tests in the past 7 days, 12.1% were positive. We want that to be 3% or less. Right? Now, I would suspect with holidays happening and people ramping up for Christmas and travel and everything, we're going to see more testing, which ideally, in an ideal world, would drive the positive test rate down. More people testing would one would hope equal more negative tests, but the similar number of positive tests, or the percentage of those that are positive, will actually drop. Now today, they're reporting a 7-day positive test rate of 10.8, which is almost certainly artificially low. I'm going to make a guess, completely educated guess, having done this every day for almost 2 years, year and a half anyway. My guess is that tomorrow I'll come back on here and I'll tell you that today's 10.8% positive test rate has been revised upward to 11.5. That's my guess. You write that down. You'll check it tomorrow. We'll see if I guess right, which would still be an improvement from the day before. Our positive test rate is going down a little bit this week, I think. We will know for sure. We'll get more numbers in the next couple of days. Now, the 7-day death average is still at 23. It's the same as it was yesterday. 34 new confirmed deaths today. I said, last week, that was like 15. Early last week, it was like 15, 16. And I was saying that looking at the number of new cases, the deaths are lagged by about 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, right? So you see an increase in cases. 4 to 6 weeks later, you see an increase in deaths. That's just how it works. It takes a long time to get the death certificate confirmed. It just does. It's really, it bothers me a little bit that we end up, somebody dies, a life ends, a family is, really affected like that, and we get to talking about when the paperwork gets done. But when we're trying to keep track of how many people we're losing, that's the way it happens, right? So it takes 4 to 6 to sometimes up to 8 weeks to get that death certificate confirmed and entered into the state database, so you can count the fatalities. Because, when you're looking at public health stuff, like, you're not necessarily in a huge hurry to count the deaths. Like, you're trying to deal with the cases and get people healthy and make people, make sure contacts are traced and everything. The deaths are like, we'll count those later. But that puts our total death toll now at 9,298. So tomorrow we'll be past 9,300. Now, hospitalizations, and we'll get to a question that came up from an astute viewer yesterday. But hospitalizations actually are pretty steady again today, which is good. Right now, the hospitalization data was not affected by the state's data processing problems. This is data that's kept by the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which is separate from the state. And there's not a lot to interpret here, right? There's just, here are the number of people who are currently in a hospital because of COVID. And that number is 1,607. Still a very high number. That's 4 fewer than yesterday, and yesterday was 11 fewer than the day before that. So the total number of people hospitalized with COVID has come down by about 15 in the past 2 days. Not a huge drop off, which is why I'd say more or less that's steady, right? Unfortunately, however, the number of people in the ICU has gone up by 10 since yesterday and is now 428. That's not great. There are only 39 ICU beds available in the entire state of Wisconsin. There are only 12 intermediate care beds available in the entire state of Wisconsin. Now, we talked a little bit yesterday about staffing, right? It's not always just about the actual rooms and beds. You could have a whole bunch of empty beds, but nobody to staff them, right? We've seen staff shortages in the healthcare industry. We've seen people just burnout, people leaving the industry. And I mentioned yesterday that the governor had said in his media briefing yesterday that the state was going to provide relief teams to hospitals to kind of make up some shifts for folks so that they can, just to take up some of those hours where their staff is short. And an astute viewer asked, where are those people coming from? Because we keep hearing about how difficult it is to hire, especially in healthcare. So where's the state going to hire people? So and it turns out I actually misunderstood the announcement, and I missed the part where they said they were actually getting relief teams from the federal government. So these are not state workers. It's not that the state is going to provide people. The state has gotten 270 requests from hospitals for additional assistance, and they have turned around and asked the Federal Emergency Management Agency to provide that staffing support. And they expect those staffing relief teams to arrive from FEMA in the next couple of weeks. Now, the state still does have some National Guard personnel providing some staff support at hospitals around the state also. That's not as many people. We're talking about hundreds of people from FEMA. We're talking about teams of 20 that will be deployed around the state. And the DHS Acting Secretary Karen Timberlake yesterday said that she does expect FEMA teams to arrive to provide staffing support at hospitals within the next couple of weeks. So we hope that helps alleviate some of that stress on those hospitals, which are really, really, really overbooked right now, as they have been for a long time. So that's the COVID situation. We'll take a short pause, and we'll be right back with some more local news and a little bit of national news. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this. All right, today on the website in the morning, Dave Dahmer, our editor-in-chief, had a nice little story about the Ujama Business Network. They're going to have 2 opportunities in the next 2 weekends, this weekend and next weekend on the south side of Madison, to support Black-owned businesses. The Ujama Business Network is a local thing here in Madison, started by Tara Wilhelmi and a couple other folks to support Black entrepreneurs, basically, right? So a lot of these folks are single, just one-person shops, with books and beauty products and candles and jewelry and clothing, and the Ujama Business Network provides them support, mentoring, just kind of a network of folks to support each other. And a lot of us last year during 2020, right, during the whole Black Lives Matter thing, we talked a lot about we want to support Black-owned businesses. And now's your chance. Now you can put your money where your mouth is, continuing for another year. So this weekend and next weekend, they're going to have over a dozen Black-owned small businesses where you can do some holiday shopping if you want. You can support some Black businesses, spend some money on the south side of Madison. And if you go to Madison365.org right now, you can see the story, read a little bit more about it, and get the details on where to go and when to support those businesses these next couple of weekends. Also, today we learned that Dane who is a leader of Madison's sort of artistic and theater scene, we just had a story about she's directed a new play at Broome Street Theater that's up right now. She is running for county board. And DeGarmo, District 33 in the Dane County Board, represents Fitchburg and a little bit of Madison South Side, is not running for re-election. And Dana Pelabon is jumping in to run for that seat. The election will be April 5th. There would be if there's more than 2 candidates, there would be a primary in February. I want to say February 6th, but I don't think that's right. In February, anyway. But I don't think there's any other candidates who have declared for that seat at this moment. So we will keep track of that race as well. One bit of national news for you. Time Magazine has named Simone Biles its Athlete of the Year. I wonder if this is she's basically being honored for not competing in the Olympics. You might remember she's the greatest American gymnast of all time. Certainly, you can make the argument, depending how you measure it, you can make the argument Simone Biles is the greatest American athlete of all time, in some senses. And she did not fully compete in the Olympics this year because she prioritized her mental health over gold medals and stuff. So, and that's one of the reasons that she has been named Time's Athlete of the Year, just for shifting that paradigm and shifting the way a lot of people think about competition and sports and athletics and greatness and all that stuff. So that story also from CNN up on Madison365.org today. All right, that is all I have for you today. I have a couple of other stories in the hopper that I'm working on that I hope to bring you tomorrow. But until then, have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon.
This is 365 Media.